G'day mate, 40 here. So a lot of people on X are finding out that there's a price to be paid for mocking the owner of X. People losing verification and visibility, and with that income and reach, right? People on X are paying a price for mocking Elon Musk. As long as Elon Musk has had control of the platform X. And I have some life experience with mocking billionaires. And I have often paid a pretty stiff price for mocking billionaires. It is a dangerous thing to mock powerful people. So I often went scorched earth in my blogging. And with my personality tendencies to bounce around from feeling invulnerable to feeling so highly vulnerable that I feel absolutely hopeless, right? Depending on what stage I am in my bipolar cycle, all right, I would just lash out at anyone and offer devastating critiques, satire, mockery at powerful people in Hollywood in particular, and sometimes they would retaliate. And so I was cruising along with a very nice gig in the final months of 1998, and I published an interview with a Hollywood actor who alleged that his career had been damaged because he wouldn't blow members of the gay mafia. And he knew it was an interview, but he didn't consider that I would publish this section of it because he just thought it was just so obvious that you don't take on the powerful. And so after I published that, my website was hacked. More specifically, the server that was hosting my website was hacked, went down. It cost the serving company hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the serving company was operated by Fantasy Man, aka Ron Levy. He told me the day after that you've got some very powerful enemies. And so I lost that gig. He said, "Yeah, you got to get your websites off my server, and I got to cut ties, and you got to go your own way." And so when you mock powerful people, they will often retaliate, and you won't be the only one who pays the price. So it's not a lot of fun to get sued. It's not a lot of fun to get threatening letters. It's not a lot of fun to lose your income. It's not a lot of fun when people associated with you are damaged because you thought it'd be funny to mock or demean or ridicule or even just report accurate information about powerful people. So here's an iron rule for life. When you hurt someone, the odds are that they will retaliate and they will hurt you. And this is true even if when you hurt them, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the accurate thing. You're doing the honorable thing. You're just standing up for what is right. But if you hurt them, they're going to retaliate. They're going to hurt you. And if you hurt someone on the internet, you mock and demean and ridicule, or even just report accurately on someone, they're going to retaliate. And most people are not suited for absorbing the blows that come when you ridicule, demean, mock, and put down very powerful people. Now, on the other hand, some people can handle it. All right? So I'm okay. I did battle with a lot of powerful people, and I came out all right. So where am I at? I am a couple of blocks from Beverly Hills. Dumpster diving gets lots of clicks on YouTube. Thank you. Good to know. But if you're demeaning, mocking, ridiculing powerful people out of your own dysfunction and poor judgment, then obviously that's self-defeating. But there are a tiny number of people who can do it reasonably and responsibly. So if you reasonably and responsibly, fairly, and show the same amount of empathy and respect that you would like to receive in this sort of situation if the roles were reversed, then you can considerably reduce your liability and reduce the antagonism that powerful people will display towards you. So if you follow proper journalistic protocol, or if you operate within the satirical genre and you're operating on a fair dinkum basis, then that reduces the incentive that people have to ruin your life. But for much of my blogging career, I would just lash out at people, and I didn't always do it reasonably and responsibly, and sometimes they would beat me up. Sometimes they would leave threats, death threats. They would damage me economically, socially, physiologically, psychologically, socially, culturally, religiously. They would damage me every which way they possibly could. So, at the ripe old age of 58, I find that my life is a lot better when I strive to treat other people as I would want to be treated, or I try to treat everyone with respect for their humanity, try to see things from other people's point of view. And I probably still go after the powerful, but I try to do it with some nuance and with some sense of respect. And that tends to reduce the intensity of the blowback that you get when you go after the powerful. Now, in open carry states, right, where everyone's armed, right, it's a really bad idea to be just gratuitously rude to people, right? An armed society is a polite society, and it's a useful mindset that everyone's armed in some ways, right? Some people are more armed than others, but even if it's not an open carry state where anyone can just carry a gun, everybody has means usually to hurt you. And if you strive to be fair and respectful, then the subjects of your criticism and your satire will usually take that into account. On the other hand, if you are not cut out to absorb criticism and the blowback that comes from making other people miserable, then you should probably desist. So I notice a lot of people go online and they have this image of themselves as much braver and much more capable than they really are. And then when the consequences start coming down, right, they can't handle it. So a lot of people think that they're far more capable of taking, brave, decisive steps and speaking out against corruption and wrongdoing. And then reality hits and they aren't. So I don't think we've evolved as a species to just take pot shots at the powerful. Right? We all come from an evolutionary history of millions of years living in a tribe, and if you're just gratuitously irritating and demeaning and mocking and satirizing the powerful members of your tribe, probably did not usually work out well for you. And I think we get desensitized to that tribal nature of our evolution when we live in big cities where life is much more anonymous. So you have that Lily Phillips girl, right? She has intimate interactions with over 100 men at a location that she rented on Airbnb, and she gave the Airbnb operator 5 stars. He gave her 5 stars until he realized that she had used his property for some kind of massive gangbang, and then he wasn't very happy. So only the anonymity of a big city allows you to get away with that stuff, and there's going to be blowback down the line. So I did not enjoy having my head bounced against light poles, right? I didn't enjoy getting punched by people who are ticked off at something I've written. Did not enjoy dealing with nasty letters from lawyers. and all sorts of various forms of retaliation. And so Elon Musk deserves criticism, just like any other powerful billionaire, but there are more and less effective ways to deliver that criticism. And I think if you deliver it in a more nuanced manner where you recognize his contributions and then add, but I think he's missing the point on this area. I suspect that Elon Musk would be a lot less likely to retaliate against you. And taking people's overall contributions into account is probably a pretty good strategy when you want to frame a context for a criticism or for satire. Elon Musk, he enjoys the Babylon Bee, so he enjoys a good laugh, might even enjoy the occasional laugh at himself. But if you're just out to destroy Elon Musk or destroy any powerful person, right, they're going to likely push back, and you're really equipped to handle that, because I'd say by a ratio of about 1,000 to 1, right? There are 1,000 people who overestimate their ability to handle blowback from the powerful for every one person who judges their ability to handle the blowback accurately. And the whole crowd is here. So, in my younger days, I was heavily reliant on other people to tell me who I am. And I would mock and ridicule and demean and criticize and call out people, in part to get some feedback, get some attention, and have other people tell me who I am. Not a good strategy for life, in my experience. Right, powerful people have all sorts of ways to make your life miserable, and there's often a huge difference between mocking and demeaning the high IQ versus the low IQ. So you mock and demean and harass someone with a low IQ, right? If they're going to retaliate, they're going to retaliate right away. They're not going to carefully plan their retaliation. But if you mock and demean someone with a high IQ, right, and they choose to retaliate, they will probably calibrate their retaliation to be most effective, and they will display patience and discipline to deliver that retaliation over time. And you may never see it coming, and you may never know the author of the pain that you receive. And some people are equipped to handle this, but most people are not. I know this best from Jewish life, right? Jewish blogging largely died out because virtually nobody could handle the blowback from saying anything critical about another member of their community. And so Jewish blogging over the years, so Jewish blogging exploded circa 2002, but by 2006 it'd become much tamer. My blog, when I was writing on the pornography industry, was at its most searing and entertaining and compelling in 1998, but within a few months, people quickly learned more effective ways of responding to me. They became much more careful in things that they said. And in the Jewish community, people learned that you could make calls, make life very difficult for any blogger who was making your life difficult. And I was something of an exception because I wasn't married, I didn't have kids, and I would fight back hard when people threatened me after a criticism. And I usually kept in mind to try to calibrate my reporting and my opining and my satire along the lines that most members of my community, not necessarily that they would agree with what I wrote, but that they would not be so offended by what I wrote, that they then became massively incentivized to go on a jihad to make my life miserable. It only takes one person to go on a jihad to make your life miserable, to make it their mission in life to damage you and not many people can handle the repercussions of that. So in those days when I was making my living from blogging and I was being incredibly outspoken, like older, wiser people would tell me to be careful who you burn your bridges with. You can't fight 57 wars at once. And when I would burn bridges and be placed in a vulnerable position, then the more desperate I would be to make alliances with some unsavory characters. So the more desperate your situation, right, usually the poorer judgment you will exhibit, and often the lower the quality of the people that you will form alliances with. If you vlog wearing a stromal, you can stand out. So overall, I think Platform X is considerably improved from before Elon Musk taking it over, that there is more free speech. But it's freedom within a sector that is controlled by a lord. And if you get on the wrong side of the lord who controls this sector, right, you're stuffed. And so, in a sense, older Twitter was better in that you didn't have all sorts of decisions being made on the basis of an individual that you offended. Right? There wasn't just one principal owner who would discipline people on the platform because they had attacked him. I don't think that was as prevalent under the old Twitter as it is now. But overall, see things with perspective. Things are better on X than they were on Twitter before Elon Musk. But there is this weird, it seems weird to have an individual controlling such a powerful platform, because no other major social media platform is so dominantly owned and controlled by one individual. But as you go through life, right, you start attacking powerful people, they will hurt you and they will deliver the pain in ways that you often cannot imagine, and you may not even be able to properly attribute it to the bloke who's really delivering you the hurt. Now, Laura Loomer has a mission in life, and she has constructed this life mission, this persona, this career, and she's kind of strapped in for this fight. And there may be some ways that she's equipped to deal with kind of blowback and hurt that Elon Musk is delivering that most people are not going to be equipped for. Remember, I mocked one of the Dark brothers. So there's Gregory Dark, and then, Walter Dark. And then I ran into Walter at the annual Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas in January 1999. And apparently a lot of people in the industry on a flight to Vegas, they'd been passing around copies of things that I'd written on my blog, poking fun at Walter. And Walter looked at me and said, "Don't you know that for less than the price of a plane ticket to Brazil," which was the country he lived in, "I can make you disappear." Now, hitmen are much more a part of mythology than reality. People do not routinely hire hitmen. Hitmen do not always deliver quality, reliable product in exchange for payment. But many people would not enjoy hearing that for less than the price of a plane ticket to Brazil, right, I can have you eliminated. And some people know some really dark characters who can deliver amounts of pain and consequence that you cannot fathom. And do you really want to introduce that level of chaos and fear and anxiety into your life? I obviously have not forgotten Walter when he said, "Don't you know that for less than the price of a plane ticket to Brazil, I can make you disappear?" Or Eddie Weddlestadt, So he was the most powerful person in the pornography industry, and I often mocked and criticized Eddie W. And people in law enforcement told me that's a really bad idea. Like, this is a really bad guy, and he's very dangerous. And so law enforcement sources, let alone industry sources, would tell me to knock it off. And then I read in a Rolling Stone profile of me that an industry gathering in Cancun, Mexico, Eddie W. predicts that Luke Ford will just end up a spot on the pavement. And Eddie was a very powerful man who was designated by law enforcement as the prime mover behind a whole bunch of criminal activity. It would not make sense for anyone intent on enjoying a long, healthy life to make fun of Eddie Weddlestedt, who's now dead. So another time I snuck into a guy's home by pretending to be somebody else. And when he found out who I really was, this is, Lenny Friedlander. He was the founder of the Free Speech Coalition. Like, he was appalled when he found out who I really was, and started saying, I could have you drowned in my pool right now. And again, that makes for a little bit of anxiety and fear. He didn't necessarily see the humor in a mutual friend bringing me along and not telling Lenny who I really was. I was introduced as Donnie Brasco, right? The name of the FBI informant who penetrated the mafia. So Rob Spallone took me along and said, hey, this is Donnie Brasco. And then Lenny was real nice to me because I was a friend of Rob's, and Lenny's wife made me a salad because I was a vegetarian. And then poor Lenny found out who I really was. And I think Lenny ended up killing himself. He had back pain, and he ended up shooting himself in his garage. But someone who's so volatile that they end up shooting themselves in their garage, not necessarily someone that you want to tick off in the real world. Burning bridges is what combat engineers are for. So there are reasonable and responsible people who can burn bridges after due consideration and due care, and possess reasonable grounds for believing that they can survive the blowback. So as I get older and older, the more care I exhibit towards those with the power to destroy my life, and the more respect I use in the way I refer to them and treat them, and the more empathy I try to extend to other people, not because I'm a great guy, but simply because I enjoy my life. I want to keep enjoying a healthy and, I hope, long, productive life. And why introduce unnecessary anxiety and fear? So Elon Musk's power over the Platform X probably does constrain me somewhat. I'm certainly fairly free with a lot of criticisms of Elon Musk, but try to dole them out reasonably and responsibly. Okay, let's leave it there.